seven, and I, things don't flow as easily as they used to for some reason.
Yeah. I'm 58 and I feel like that occasionally. So, especially lately.
Glenn,
Yes,
can I ask you a question
absolutely.
about your use of AI? I'm curious what AI services you use and what tasks do you accomplish with it?
Well, funny you should ask that because I was going to mention a little project I'm working on tonight at the meeting. I just thought people might be interested. Um, are you guys familiar with the term vibe coding?
I've heard the term, um,
So,
so go on.
what vibe coding is people are programming using AI. So I'm not a coder. I've attempted to teach myself code at different times in my life. And I start to get into it, and then my eyes roll back in my head. I'm more of an idea and design guy. And so coding, just always like things like accounting and other tedious things like that, to me are just, it's tedious. So the idea of vibe coding is that you are using the AI as your partner. And so I thought, you know what? I want to try this just to see where it takes me. And I'm as I told you guys before, I've got a subscription to Chat GPT, and I'm using Chat GPT to do this with me. And it's a fascinating exercise. I decided I'm going to create a game. And so, Chat GPT and I are, it's like having a conversation with one of you, like I'm sitting there with a fellow, you know, programmer or something. But so, like, I tell Chat GPT, this is what I want to do. And then we bounce ideas back and forth off each other. And, Chat GPT will give me its opinion. And I'll say, well, I think we should go this way. And it'll say, okay, well, let's give that a try. And it's handling the code part of it. And so I'm, doing this, but I'm using an external, a third party program to do the actual coding in. It's a program called Godot, Godot, and it'll give me like, okay, working on this. It'll give Chat GPT will give me the code, and then I take it and I put it in, to Godot, and and then it's periodic. I'll say, okay, why don't you run that and tell me what happens? And I found it easier. I'll take a screenshot and show Chat GPT what's going on. It'll say, oh, yeah, I see an error in your code there, or that's what this means. Or, oh, this isn't working how I want it to. It's a really cool experience. Now,
Ask you further.
I've been putting a lot of hours in with it. How
Question.
that's going to come out on the other end, will I actually make a real game? Who knows? But I think it's an interesting exercise. And this may be something that I'm working on for months. So, I find myself for a couple hours most nights sitting here and doing that.
Are you using
So
a paid tier on the ChatGPT?
yeah, the one I'm using, it's $8 a month. It's kind of their, like, you have the free version, then you have the $8 one, and then there's a more expensive one. I forget what it is a month. Like I wanted to say it was like $20 or something. So I don't know what more I would get for that, but I figure, you know what, $8 a month, that's a pretty reasonable. And originally I did it because I was found myself using AI queries more. And I thought, oh well, let's just try one out. And it's great because when you're using the free tier of these AI programs, they don't tell you exactly, but you get a limit on how many questions, how many queries you can ask in a day or how many uploads, and then you got to wait till the next day. With the paid one, I've never been told I have limits. Now, I don't know what more I get on the upper tier. So I've been primarily using Chat GPT. Now, I always liked Claude for writing stuff. Like when I was kind of stumped or I needed to clean up something I was writing, I thought Claude was really good with its writing tools, and I've used Claude for a few years for that. And I'll still do that. Like if I'm trying to, write something and I want it to sound good, and I might compare what does Chat GPT come up with, what does Claude come up with.
Are you
Um,
subscribed to a paid plan on Claude?
no, I'm not. What I and this changes so rapidly, it's almost hard to keep up with it. But I have found that over time, the different AI programs seem to have strengths in different areas. Um, I don't know lately, I haven't tried it, but I've got a friend of mine who um, he uses professionally Google Gemini, and he raves about it. He really likes it. So I would say a couple things. One, you probably have to test them out for yourself, but do it with the free versions and give them the same queries, in different places and see how does that come out. Whose responses do I generally like better? Or you might find their strengths and weaknesses. Like it's funny because occasionally Chat GPT will give me an odd answer and I know the answer is wrong. Or like when I've been working with this coding stuff, it'll tell me something and I'll reply back, you know what, you already had me try that, a couple days ago and that didn't work. And it'll think for a second, like, you know what, you're right. Or I'll call them out on something that got wrong and it'll say, yeah, you're right. That's not right at all. So AI is certainly not infallible, and I'm curious if the higher the tiers you go to, the more accurate it becomes. I don't know the answer to that. But what I would do to test them is, like I said, have one query, use it across different AI models, and compare the responses you get. Try that and see. You might find there's one model you like better than the others. And then, if you think you're going to be using it a lot, then you can investigate a paid, subscription.
On that Chat GPT and game that you're working on,
Yeah,
is that programming language Swift or is it something else?
that's a good question. I don't actually know.
You don't know what programming language you're having it write code in?
Well, so the like I said, it's writing I've never asked it. I could ask Chat GPT actually, but like I said, we're taking the code and we're taking it into like I said, it's called I don't know if it's Godot or Godot. I don't know how it's pronounced, but they consider themselves like a gaming type code thing. Hold on, I'm going to pull up and I'm going to share it with you here in the chat. Um, this is what Chat GPT had suggested I use for this. And so I did that. There's other ones like Codex is another one you could use for that kind of stuff. Hold on here. I'm putting it. Okay, I just put the link to this thing I'm using, but I don't actually know what the actual. Well, hold on. If you give me a second, I will ask Chat GPT. By the way, the problem I have, one little thing that you guys might find interesting that I have found is that as you've got a chat going and it gets longer and longer, um, it will slow down. And so what I've been doing is at a point when I really find it slowing down, um, I will say, hey, I'm going to start a new chat. Let's switch to this. And it'll say, okay. And it'll give me a summary and say, why don't you paste that into the new chat? And then we'll start from there. Um, and so it's interesting that it does slow down as the chats get longer and longer, and I've got more and more screenshots going on. So I just have a folder. You can create a project, and in that folder, right now I'm up to our 6th chat, and I'll be ready for our 7th one soon. And hold on, I'm asking right now, what programming language do we use? Give me 1 second. Um,
So if you start a new chat when you're working on a programming problem, to start the new chat, what do? Upload your already written code for it to look at?
No, it remembers what we already did from the previous chats. It can access the previous chats, but it'll give me a summary and it'll say, take this summary. I'm summarizing everything we've done, put that into the new chat so it will know exactly where we left off and where we want to start, but it can go back and access the other chats as well. I just asked it and it said for this, we're using GD script, which is Godot's built-in scripting language. And he said it looks a lot like Python. So I presume that, like if I were to take this and say, okay, hey, this is seriously viable. Like I want to get it on the App Store. I would then have to figure out what do I need to do to take this. But like I said, this program is made for gaming programming. So I presume because of that, it would be fairly easy to move it over to, what I needed to do with it. Or I'd ask Chat GPT, what do I need to do with this? you know. So anyway, play, like I said, play. Especially if it's free stuff, I mean, play around with these AI models and just know they're not infallible. They do give you wrong answers at times. And frustratingly, by the way, I will say this: if you want to do image generation, some do it and some don't. Like Claude does not do image generation, as far as I know. Um, Chat GPT will, if I say, it can create an image for me if I want it to. All right.
Yeah,
But
just
I think
just to
the, I
add,
think,
just to
oh,
add
go
real
ahead.
quick to that, the bottom line is I do a lot of in my photography. I'm using it. You tell in English what you want to have done. That's really what it boils down to. You say exactly what you want, and it happens for especially for the images. Same thing you're talking about there, Glenn.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, AI is a wonderful tool. It can do some great stuff. It's just that you have to understand that it's not infallible and sometimes may not give you what you want or even the right information. So you have to kind of, I mean, it's pretty good. And I would just say that I think though there's a tendency that it could make us a little lazy. But essentially, AI has been developed to pick up the workload to be able to do things better and faster or more capable than we're able to do it.
Yeah, just to follow up on my own end, I use Photoshop a lot, and for instance, I did a picture. I took a picture of my grandson, and I had a picture of a collie dog off of the internet. I just took a screenshot of it. I loaded those two pieces up, and I said, make the image the grandson hugging this dog, and make the dog 5 feet tall.
Yeah.
And you would be amazed in a half a minute or 45 seconds what that
Yeah.
returns. It may not be exactly what you want, but it's pretty close. For me to do that in Photoshop would take a lot of work to even do it if I could.
Fran, I will echo what you're saying there because I use Photoshop a lot as well. And I would say this: sometimes I'll ask the AI program to do something like that and it does great. Other times it really fails. It's not giving me what I want. So then I go over to Photoshop and I manually do it. But like you said, if I can tell it to do that and it does it in 30 or 45 seconds for me, why do I want to spend a couple hours in Photoshop? you know,
Well,
yeah,
and
yeah,
I'll take that image that it's done, and if I'm happy with it, I'll take it into Photoshop anyway,
yeah,
and totally, and then add text and some other things, and I mean, it's a time saver, is what it boils down to.
yeah. And sometimes I agree with you. I'll use both to, I'll have it start there and take it, or vice versa.
Yeah, it's pretty fascinating, actually.
Is anybody else using AI for stuff that we haven't mentioned? Just curiously? No. Yeah, it's one of those things that until you really delve into it, you don't realize what it can do, but it's a real time saver. I mean, how I make my goodies every month. I've been curious to say, here are my topics, here's what I want. Make me a presentation to see what it comes up with. I know John, you listen to Matt Geek Gab. I don't know if we have anybody else who does, but on there, the main show's host, all their little they'll have little sponsor breaks where they'll talk about sponsors for a few minutes. And he on there, he talks about he has AI write the scripts for their little sponsor things. And he said from his experience, AI will actually write the scripts in his voice because it's gotten used to doing that with him. But then he says it always sounds the same because they're trying to emulate my voice. So then I'll say, well, change that up a little bit. So there are all kinds of uses out there for AI. It's interesting.
Okay, I think we have to start the meeting.
Yeah, we're only 17 minutes late, but you know what? I think it's a great conversation. So
Oh, I had a surgery today, so I just had a biopsy. I'm okay.
Cool.
good, good, Alan. Glad to hear it.
Good
Great.
news.
But I almost slept through this meeting.
Well, we're
Not
glad
the
to see.
first time.
Okay, we're all, let's see. Of course, tonight's meeting is being the WWDC keynote, and at the end of the meeting, we're going to choose names for the $400 gift cards. And that's, I guess, it for the introduction. We've already had questions, so.
Well, I would say I presume we're going to go into my goodies segment, Ron.
Mhm.
Before I get to that, though, I thought I would relate an experience, and and John Connor has been a part of my experience. um, God, I'm trying to think how many weeks ago this was now. Man, like almost 3 or 4 weeks ago, I guess. My iPad Pro, I had a iPad Pro that got doused by a 24-ounce water bottle and died a grisly death, a drowning death. And so, it was, I mean, I'd had it for 5 years. It was an iPad Pro M1 12.9 inch, but still worked great. So I was in no rush to get rid of it, and especially as expensive as they are. And so I took it over to the Apple store hoping they could revive it, but they couldn't. And it's a shame because the woman I was working with said, if we can just revive it, I can get it to turn on. I can give you a trade-in value for it, even though it's been, kind of fried. But alas, we could not get it to revive, so I didn't get that. And so anyway, I decided, the iPad Pros are so expensive, and do I really need a Pro model? And I decided to save some money. I'd go with the Air, but I had to buy, I use the Apple Pencil quite a bit. And then I decided I had to buy a new pencil because my old pencil is not compatible with the newer models. I had to get the Pencil Pro. By the time I was done with all that, plus tax and everything, even with my education discount, it was like I still was paying like $1,200 for an iPad Air 13-inch, but I was also saving probably about $600 from the Pro model. Well, I used it for about a week or so, and it just didn't like the screen as much. The brightness, there was a big difference in that. Um, and John had said, I have an iPad Pro M4 that I bought 2 years ago, and it's rarely been used. I never use it. And he said, I'll sell it to you for the trade-in value. And I thought, well, I'll be saving a lot of money. And so I bought John's with his Pencil Pro and a case and all this. And so that's now what I've been using. And I'm glad John, it's worked great. Although, as I said to John, I said, I really am not noticing much of a difference from my M1 iPad Pro to the M4. Now, maybe because I'm not doing anything, I'm not really driving it hard. But that worked out really well. And then ironically, so my wife had promised my son they were going to get a computer together because she had an old iPad Pro from 2000 or I mean a MacBook Pro from 2014, and that was just dying. So they were going to get one of these new MacBook Neos for them to share. And we're at the store looking at them, and they're like, God, this is so small. And my wife's like, it'd be nice to have a little bigger screen. And then they started looking at the iPad Air, or I mean, sorry, I keep saying iPad, MacBook Air, sorry. And even the little 13.6-inch screen was better than the 13-inch Neo, but they were going to be paying about $300 more. But then somehow they decided they really wanted the bigger screen in the 15-inch, and that's what they ended up buying. Is if they started going to buy a MacBook Neo and ended up with a MacBook Air 15-inch. But I got to tell you, I've spent the last couple of days setting that up for them, and they bought the midnight color. And I don't know if you guys have seen this. It's a dark blue color, like a navy-ish color maybe. And I got to tell you, that color I think it's just gorgeous. I mean, I'm jealous, like, and of that color. They even have the cable, the charging cable's the same matching color that goes with it. And it's just a beautiful blue. The funny thing is I'm so used to my MacBook Pro that having that MacBook Air on my lap, I'm like, oh my God, this is so much nicer because it's so much lighter than my MacBook Pro. It's like the difference is it's immense. Ironically, we bought that 2 days ago. And then yesterday morning, my wife says she had my old iPad Pro from like 2018. it quit charging. It wouldn't charge. So she took it over to the Apple store today. And then they're like, yeah, it's not going to charge. And she ended up having to she bought an iPad Air. And amazingly, that 2018 iPad Pro that won't charge, they still gave her $190 in trade-in value for that thing. So all of a sudden we've had to get a bunch of new Apple devices in our family. I've spent the last couple of days setting up the MacBook Air and the iPad Air. It feels like that's all I've been doing is setting up all their stuff. So,
Did
but
you use all your discount cards from
no, I didn't do that. Actually, we ended up buying the MacBook Air from Costco because they, even with my education discount, their price was still another $50 lower than my education discount.
Wow.
So yeah, so right now Costco's got some, I mean, they're undercutting Apple's prices. So if you're looking for something, and you're a member of Costco, check that out. So she got the iPad at the Apple store, because the other thing is Costco's trade-in is a little different. You don't do it there at Costco. You have to send it in, physically send it in. They evaluate it, and then they send you a Costco card, a digital card back. So it's not like where you go into the Apple store, you say, here you go, and they take it off your price. So, it's a little more roundabout. But yeah, anyway, if you're in the market, check out Costco. But yeah, that midnight color, I was just stunned by that. And unfortunately for MacBook Pros, they don't make that. It's still the silver and space gray. That's your only option. And John Connor was saying that, his wife has that exact same 15-inch midnight MacBook Air. I don't, John, what do you think of that color?
No, it's not the mid book. She got the sky blue one.
Oh, she did. Okay. I thought you said it was the midnight one. Okay. Yeah. But anyway, I'm like, I was never one for all these different colors, but man, that color just blew me away. I'm like, wow, that's just great looking. By the way, one last thing before I get moving here is we had that sitting on a dark brown table, and both my wife and son were looking for their computer, and they both walked right by it. It just blended right into that dark table. It was kind of funny. They're like, have you seen the computer? I'm like, it's right there on the table. And they had to like go back and look at it a second time. Like, you're right. It just even though it was blue, it blended right into that dark brown. Kind of funny. So,
Depends on what
all
you're
right.
looking for.
What's that?
It just depends on what you're looking for. They haven't put that
Hey,
in there.
Father's Day's coming up. All you got to do is put the word out.
Yeah. All right. So anyway, let me get to the goodies here. All right. Why is it not? Come on, slideshow. There we go. All right. It's where I wish I was sitting right now on a beach someplace. No offense to you all, but I could use to be sitting under a palm tree on a beach somewhere.
Shade would be nice if you're this temperature.
Well, I got to tell you, just about anywhere you go is going to be nicer than our weather here in St. Louis. So at least the Sahara is a dry heat, right? All right. So if you are not currently an Apple Card holder, Apple is running a promotion, and it's only through June 15th. So don't dawdle. But if you're not an Apple Card holder, they've got a promotion for first time Apple Card users that, as they promote it, it effectively makes you get a pair of AirPods Pro 3 free. Now, there's a catch. They're not saying if you sign up for the card, they send you the AirPods Pro 3s. What you have to do is you sign up for the card, then you go buy the AirPod Pro 3 directly from Apple. And if you buy those AirPod Pro 3, you will then receive $249 back in Apple Cash, in a daily cash reward in Apple Cash. So essentially what they're doing is, if you sign up for the card and then you go buy the headphones, they're essentially giving you cash back in the amount that the headphones cost you. So in a roundabout way, you're getting a free pair of AirPod Pro 3s when you sign up for the card. And you don't even have to spend money on the card. I think you have to use the card to buy them. That's the thing. But so anyway, if you're not currently an Apple Card holder and you'd like some, AirPod Pro 3s, There you go. So this promotion though ends on the 15th, so you only have a short while before that ends.
Question.
Yeah,
I am a card holder for quite a while, but what about if I applied for one for my wife?
she's not a card holder, is she?
Well, I don't remember her being on there or not, but maybe not. So that would be an option, wouldn't it?
Sure. Yeah, if the card holder, if the card's in your name. Now I know didn't Apple institute some with the card. There was like you could do some kind of family thing with it. I don't know.
I don't remember.
So,
No. Okay. Well, yeah. Then try it. Sign her up, and then you can get yourself pretty much like I said. I mean, I guess with the tax, it may not be totally free, but I love my AirPods Pro 3s, so I
I was going
recommend.
to say, isn't that the ones that you guys have really recommended being superior and vast improved and all that sort of thing?
I found from the twos, the noise canceling is definitely better. You also get coming with the AirPod Pro 3s, you get 5 different sizes of earbuds. So you can do a lot more sort of finding the right fit than just the three you normally have a choice of. I found that there's a little better bass response in them than the twos had. So I like mine. But anyway, so that's
I was thinking about the fit was being the because one of the guys did a thing on that a meeting or two ago about third party stuff and all that.
yeah.
As far as fitting, isn't this the best they've ever been?
In my opinion, yes. But like I said, there are a lot of third party options as well that you can swap those out if they don't work for you. So
Okay. Okay.
all right, moving on here. YouTube is doing something interesting. They're going to start automatically labeling AI videos, and this is great because nowadays you go on YouTube and it's get to the point now. Sometimes you don't know what's real and what's not. I mean, AI can make some pretty impressive stuff that you don't know if it's AI generation. So they're going to automatically start any AI generated content. They're going to label it as anything that uses, as they say, significant photorealistic AI. And so um, they're no longer going to rely only on creators to self-report this. If they detect what they think is AI generated content, they'll put a label on there, um, and you'll be able to see that label. It says it'll appear directly below the video player, and on the shorts it'll overlay on there. And so they're saying they're just trying to help people identify what's AI. And so they're saying that YouTube says they're using a number of different detection methods. And, I don't know what all that means, but basically, and they also give creators the chance that if a creator feels like, hey, this is a mistake, they can, appeal this. So that's interesting that they're doing this. All right. Speaking of MacBook Neos, I just saw this report last week that on Neo sales compared to the MacBook Air and Pro. And so now that the Neo has been on sale for a full season for 3 months, in that time, the Neo sold 1.1 million units compared to the Air's 900,000 and the MacBook Pro's 550,000. And so this was an IDC report that I saw on 9 to 5 Mac. So, the Neo seems to be a real success. And a lot of that, it frankly, is down to the price point. Um, Although you can see it didn't sell that much more than the Airs did because there are, just like we decided in my family, there are some people who prefer the performance of the Air over the Neo and that you can get a little bigger, screen size. Um, Apple's not worried that the Pro models are selling less because that's definitely much more of a specialized market that not everybody fits into. And, they have a much higher price, by the way, and a much bigger profit margin for those as well. And they really said that the Neo buyers tend to be students, first time Mac owners, people who are switching from a Chromebook or Windows maybe, and for families who maybe need a secondary computer in the house. So, and that sounds very reasonable. But anyway, you can see how they've been selling. All right. I don't know how many of you guys use DuckDuckGo. That's the search engine I use. I do not use Google for my search. And I kind of flip flop back and forth between DuckDuckGo browser and Safari. But recently, DuckDuckGo is seeing a huge surge in its popularity, and especially on iPhones for iPhone users. And a lot of this is being driven because Google has recently unveiled an AI focused search overhaul. And so once this was reported, DuckDuckGo said that it had its highest single day search traffic ever on June 1st of this year. And again, a lot of this is because a lot of people don't want that whole AI search. And so it said in here, I have iOS installs are up 95% compared with the week before Google's AI search announcement. And so that's really driven, and so it's interesting. And so again, people are trying to get away from the whole AI search thing. And the other thing is, DuckDuckGo is known for its privacy. And they also offer AI search assistance, but you can decide if you want that on or not. And so that's kind of nice to at least have that power to turn that on or off or whatever. All
Uh,
right.
Glenn,
Yeah.
Glenn, can I ask you on what your opinion is on that? I've found, and I guess it was about a year ago when Google started this AI search thing. And when you do a search now, it used to be they just bring up a bunch of contractors or whatever you were thinking about getting, but now it's like it sits there and it'll say thinking, 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 like it's a real person. And it does come up with a significantly better offering in my mind. How do you feel about the whole thing?
I can't really answer because I couldn't tell you the last time I used Google search. I mean, I just don't use it. All I use is DuckDuckGo. Now, I will say this. I have found it's interesting because at times my wife has been on her computer and I've been on mine, and we're both searching for something. She uses Google and I use DuckDuckGo. So it is interesting that we get different results. And I still think Google is probably a superior in its search function just because they have so much more experience at it. However, I think you're also, I'm trying to think how I want to put this. Like Google, it feels like it's leading you a lot more, like toward where they want you to go versus what you get on DuckDuckGo. I feel like the ads are more easily labeled on DuckDuckGo, and DuckDuckGo respects your privacy way more than Google does. So, I
Well,
mean,
I,
that's
I guess just for a small example, I had to have a thermostat replaced on one of our cars, and I took it in the mechanic, and he said, it's going to be 4 or 5 hours the way these cars are these days, and it's going to be fairly expensive, and turned out to be something like $875 to replace a thermostat, which in the old days you'd have done it yourself. Anyway, so I thought, well, gosh, I trust this guy. I work with him all the time, but I thought I'll just go on and see. So I went on and I asked a detailed question, model of the car, the whole bit, 9 yards, and said, how much should it cost? And it came back with paragraphs of detail about the whole operation. And it said, it'll be probably somewhere between 600 and 1,300 bucks, depending on, where you go. So I felt better about it because I thought, well, this is right in line with but it's sophisticated in the answering that you get so quickly.
right. Well, again, there's the pros and cons to it, but I can't speak to it any more than that because I just don't use Google. So, maybe somebody, can anybody else answer that? Speak to that? Okay. All right. So our old friend Johnny Ive is up to a new tricks, and he has collaborated on the new Ferrari electric car. I don't know if you guys have heard about this, but let me play this real short video for you. Can you all see and hear this?
Yep.
Something. I don't. I don't hear it, Glenn.
Does it have a sound, Glenn?
Can you not hear the sound?
No.
No.
It's just music.
Okay.
I don't know why you can't hear it.
Ferrari. Zoom, zoom.
A little less dramatic without the music. But let me hold on a second though, because I'm going to stop my share. That worries me. You guys can't hear it because I want you to be able to hear stuff. So let me redo this. I'm gonna make. I don't think I clicked share sound and optimize. So let me go back into there. Curiously, tell me if you can hear it now.
Yeah.
That's what was playing the whole time. Okay. So anyway, the Ferrari Luce, Johnny Ive, and well, let me go. I'll give a little more detail here. Nope. Go. Okay. So Johnny Ive and his coworker Mark Newsom, they have their own design firm, Love From, excuse me. They designed this with Ferrari, and it has caused an uproar. Have any of you heard about this or seen this? It was released a few weeks ago, and so it is Ferrari's first electric car, and it's not a traditional Ferrari. It's not a two-seat, high end, sports car, but it's a four-door, five-seat. It's what they call a luxury grand touring EV. And I tell you what, though, when you look at it, and this is what's been controversial, when you look at that, other than the Ferrari logos and stuff, it does not look like a Ferrari. It looks frankly like what I would have imagined that Johnny Ive would have designed for an Apple car had they followed through and produced it. And, it's got that total minimalist philosophy and all the smooth surfaces and simplified controls and all that kind of stuff. And it was interestingly, though, I've pushed Ferrari away from having touchscreen dashboards because he said that those interfaces don't work well while driving. So even though he comes from Apple, he kind of moved them away from that to having more physical switches and tactile controls. Now, it may not be a supercar, sports car like what Ferrari's known for, but let me say this: it's high-end performance. As I have here, it's got more than 1,000 horsepower. It goes 0 to 60 in 2.5 seconds, and its top speed is over 190 miles an hour and has over a 300-mile range. But it comes with a price tag. It costs around $640,000.
Oh my God.
And their deliveries are expected to begin at the end of 26 and into 27. And but I got to tell you, it's controversial. A lot of, some people praise it and other people said, this sucks. It doesn't look like a Ferrari. I mean, social media ripped Ferrari up and down. And, the other thing is when it was released, Ferrari stock took a nosedive. So I haven't followed what happened to Ferrari stock in recent weeks since then. But I don't know about you guys, but when I look at that, I think of, if Johnny Ive had stayed at Apple and they had produced their own car, that's, kind of the look of what I would expect out of an Apple car. It's not what I would have think of for a Ferrari car. Although I wouldn't mind driving one just to check it out. I'm a little short on that, the cash for that that cost, you know. All right. I don't know if you guys have ever noticed, but if you type in the wrong macOS password, there's a little pause there. Have you guys noticed that it'll like pause and then the screen will shake a little?
Yeah.
Anybody experienced that? Okay. Well, and so that's like you can see I've got a picture here of my screen, you know, with the password at the bottom when you do that. And so it's not a glitch. That's designed on purpose. And so what that is it's an intentional security feature. And Apple uses a delay to slow down any kind of brute force attacks, which if you don't know what that is, it's where attackers rapidly will try like thousands of password combinations. It's just automatically hitting. And so that little brief delay evidently reduces how many guesses can be attempted. And so that's what they're doing during that time. And it's interesting because the Mac OS increases penalties after repeated failures. So after you get 4 wrong attempts, there's a 1-minute lockout. After 5 attempts, a 5-minute lockout. And after 6 attempts, there's a 15-minute lockout. And if you have 9 failed attempts, then eventually you get an 8-hour lockout. Again, what they're trying to do is slow down that process of attacks coming in. And that's also why after you reboot, they make you redo a password instead of just the Touch ID. It's another layer of security. So if you've ever noticed that when you type your password wrong, that's a intentional security thing that they've put in.
Cool.
All right. Anybody pay attention to the little dots on the top of your iPhone that change?
Yeah.
So you'll
I
see
know
on my
why.
picture there, you'll see little dots, little colored dots. And as my headline says, they're a little bit of a spy detector. And so these dots are actually telling you what's going on when apps are using the camera and the mic. And so what they mean is the small black dot that'll be near the dynamic island will be next to it. That's basically indicating, you know, that an app is using some kind of sensitive hardware. If you see a green dot, it means that the camera is in use. If you see an orange dot, the microphone's in use. And they in 18.4 and the latest software, they put them against the black island background so that they show up a lot more than just on the regular screen. And so here, I'll little video about that.
If you see a green dot up here on your iPhone, it means there's an app that's using your camera and the camera is active. If you see an orange dot, it means an app is accessing your microphone and the mic is active. You'll see when I open my camera app, for example, the green dot instantly appears. When the camera is on, it usually means the microphone is also on, but the green dot takes priority because accessing your camera is a bigger deal from a privacy standpoint. And that's what this feature is all about: protecting your privacy and making sure no one can access your camera or microphone without you knowing. If you see the dot and don't know what app is accessing your camera, you can swipe down from the top right corner to open your control center, and it'll show on the very top a little highlight, pointing out which app is accessing these, and you can tap into it to see what exactly they're accessing. If you ever see a blue or purple dot, it means an app is accessing your location. A solid dot would mean an app is tracking you in real time, like a navigation app. And if you see a hollow outline, it means an app was doing a fencing check, like the weather app checking what city you're in. If you go to the privacy and security settings, you can scroll down to your camera and microphone sections, and you'll see a list of apps that have requested access to your camera and microphone. If you see an app that you don't want to give access to these, you can just toggle it off. And in the same privacy menu under Location Services, you can deny any app access to your location. iPhone's privacy features are pretty robust, so it's good to understand these and how to use them. Click that like button if this helped, and subscribe for more easy guides like this.
All right. I don't know if anybody ever pays attention to those, but that's just, I thought it was an interesting little primer on what they actually mean.
I've seen that, never knew what it meant.
Yeah, well, that's why I thought I'd share this with you guys. I thought it's kind of interesting.
If you see a
All right. So now, the Messages app in iOS 26.5 now has encrypted RCS. And so you can check if that encryption is really working. So Apple Messages, normally uses end-to-end encryption if you're messaging a fellow Apple user. but that doesn't extend to the green bubbles, if you will, those conversations with non-Apple users. But Message has been upgraded with support for those green bubbles or RCS end-to-end encryption as well. So how do you know if they're actually being encrypted? Well, it should be on by default, but you can check. If you go to settings, then go to apps to messages, and in messages, you can see where it says RCS messaging there. It's the top one under text messaging in that first picture. You click on that, and then you look for, is it end-to-end encryption? Now you'll notice it says beta. So there's something new. They're still playing with it. It's not, they're still improving on it. By the way, having that setting enabled doesn't guarantee, though, Apple says that all RCS conversations are encrypted. Both you and Message be using support error compatible devices. If an RCS chat is encrypted, you'll see a lock icon and an encrypted label in the conversation. So if you were somebody who was worried about that, Messages, I don't know that many people are really worried about it, but just kind of an update on how you can check that. All right. So I mentioned before that I bought the new Apple Pencil Pro, I bought John's to go with my iPad Pro. And as I said, I'm a big Apple Pencil user. And since I started using the Pro, and I've been kind of, using some of its newer functions that I didn't have before that I like, I thought I would, I was just kind of looking at all the different features, and I use my pencil regularly. I do note taking on my iPad. I do sketching. I do annotating of things. And so I don't know how many of you use pencils, but I thought maybe I'd just talk about some of the features that the pencil can do. How many of you use a pencil? Anybody using one? No? Okay. I was hoping more people would be, but anyway, here's some of the stuff that's interesting. So on the pencil, if you double tap, you can switch between tools. So like when I'm writing with it, and you can see it's kind of down by the end where your finger might be anyway. If you double tap that, like I have it set so that I go from my writing tool to my eraser. So if I make a mistake, I double tap, I erase, and then I go right back to, my writing tool. So you can quickly switch like that. It's pretty convenient. You don't have to go tap on an icon or something. Also, if you squeeze the Apple Pencil on the side on the Pro, the original model doesn't do this, but on the Pro, if you squeeze the side, you will get a little menu. You can see it pop up there right above the tip of the pencil. And now you have this tool palette appears, and you can, it shows like shortcuts for undo and redo and eraser, your recently used nibs that you wrote with, a color picker, stuff like that. So that's real convenient to get to switch from. They also, so you can control your Mac. So the iPad is a feature you can turn into a second screen for your Mac. Well, it becomes a touch screen that you can run your Mac OS using your pencil. And when you place your iPad next to your Mac, and if both the devices have to be on the same Wi-Fi network and using the same Apple ID, and on your Mac, you go to Control Center, screen mirroring, and in the mirror or extend a section, you select your iPad. Then once you have that set up, you can choose to use an external display, and your Apple Pencil will actually replace your cursor. So you can use your pencil on your iPad to click on objects, and like a mouse that controls stuff on your actual computer. And it'll let you write so that you can mark up stuff that's on your computer, but you're writing on your iPad. So it's kind of cool. Fourth thing, annotate and share screenshots. So you can annotate with your pencil whatever's on your screen. If you swipe in from the bottom left corner of the iPad, you enter the screenshot markup interface, and the iPad will automatically take a screenshot of whatever's on your screen. And now you're using the pencil to annotate that. So you're not actually annotating the original, you're annotating that screenshot that the iPad made. And if you're in Safari, you'll also get a full page option to annotate on a web page. And so you can use your pencil to do this. You can draw shapes and arrows. You can crop that. So it's kind of handy if you want to annotate on a document to do that. you can write in any text field. So you can use that pencil to write anywhere the iPad accepts text input. So and this works using the Scribble feature. And I don't know if you guys have heard of this, but Scribble is a new feature that's come out. I think it's been around for a couple of years now, but you have to just go to settings and make sure Scribble is enabled. And then once it's enabled, you can write with your Apple Pencil in any text field. So like if you've got a form you got to fill out, if you'd rather write in there instead of typing, you can just do it with your pencil. And as you write, the iPad will convert your written text into typed text. So and it appears live as you finish. You'll like write a couple letters, and it's just right behind you there. And Scribble will convert writing to typed text. And it also Scribble will help basically if it, to clean up your text, and you guys have heard of that, to make it more legible. So that's a pretty cool feature as well. There's a little hidden Apple Notes feature that people don't know about. You can take quick notes with the pencil. And so you can bring up a small floating notepad that's context aware. And with your Apple Pencil, you just swipe in from the bottom right corner of the screen when you're in an app or the home screen, and you'll see a little quick note interface pop up, and you can start writing or drawing in that. So you can see in that little picture on the right-hand side there, that's your little note interface that you can write in. So if you're in some app and you want to make some notes about it, you can bring this up. It's a cool little feature that people don't really know about. I forget about it.
Well, you don't have to have a pencil to use that, do you?
I thought you did, as far as I know. I think it's just for the
I think
pencil.
there's a quick notes thing at the bottom of the Mac screen on the right that you could just pull up a quick note and type in it.
I don't know. I was thinking of the iPad. I don't think you can just do it with your finger, though.
No, no.
Yeah.
No, I was thinking on the Mac.
The Pencil Pro is unique for all this stuff, right? So how long has that been out?
Not all of this stuff is. Some you can do with the old pencil, and some you have to have the Pencil Pro to do some of this stuff with. As far as how long some of this stuff has been out, it depends on the feature. Some of it has been in the last year or two. A few of these things have been around longer.
No, I mean the Pro itself, the Pencil
Oh,
Pro.
the Pencil Pro, I think that came out 2 years ago, I believe.
Okay.
Well,
Okay.
I think it's, yeah, been around for 2 years. So now you can also take notes from a lock screen, which is very handy on the iPad. Like, let's say I don't know, you're at a lecture or you're watching something like with WWDC. I take notes through the presentation. And if you go to settings, to apps, to notes, you can choose access notes from lock screen. Now, by default, this is off. You can turn it on, and you then have two options. Either pick always create a new note or resume last note. So like if you plan to use this feature to add a note that you're already using, say if you're taking notes in a meeting or a lecture, you would want resume last note. But if you're going to just write new information, something new, then you'd rather have a new note each time. So the idea of this is if your iPad's locked and the screen's turned off, you just tap the iPad screen with your Apple Pencil and the note opens up and you can just start writing. You don't have to go through with unlocking your iPad and getting to the Notes app. It's much quicker if you're, trying to take notes. And then you can use barrel rolls and pressure to change your stroke. So you can roll your pencil over. You can see the little blue line there. But if you roll the Apple Pencil between your fingers, you can kind of change the thickness of line strokes, also how you press. It's much more like if you're using, a fountain pen or calligraphy or something like that. And so that gives you a lot more, especially if you're drawing and things like that, it gives you a lot more flexibility on your line strokes. You can also make your handwriting more legible. And so auto refine handwriting will make it that, maybe your handwriting is not the cleanest, but it'll kind of, help clean it up to make it a little nicer. And you access it by tapping the three dotted more button from the tool palette with your pencil. And then iPad will rewrite your handwriting if it's sloppy. That they try to make it look like your handwriting, but just neater and more legible. I've got it set on, even though I've got pretty neat handwriting. Sometimes I find when you're working and you're writing on that slick screen, you're not always going to write as neatly as you might on a paper surface. And so you can also, the other cool thing is you can go back and refine text. So if you highlight the text you want to refine and tap the refine button in your little pop-up tool palette, you can actually, well, one, you can paste from other sources doing this. You can have it refine your handwriting. So there's a lot of real cool flexibility there if you're doing that. And then finally, the last thing I had here is you can turn drawn shapes into what they call sharp shapes. So if you draw a shape using a single stroke, so like a circle, I go all the way around, or a square, I continue in one stroke. And you hold down the Apple Pencil for a second without lifting after you finish, the iPad will automatically clean that shape up to make it look nicer. The edges are sharper, it looks neat and real. And, try drawing a perfect circle, for instance. Not easy to do.
No.
Oh, I forgot I had one more hover feature. With the Pro, if you hover just above the iPad screen, it'll preview the drawing tools or the eraser and what they look like before you do it. It can give you the preview, like the tilt of the highlighter or the stroke of the fountain pen. So before you start to write, you can see what it's going to look like just by hovering. And here's just a quick little Apple video showing some of this.
From unique gestures to a convenient tool palette, your Apple Pencil Pro has so much to offer. Here's how to use it. Apple Pencil Pro is compatible with iPad mini with A17 Pro, 13-inch iPad Air with M2 and M3, 11-inch iPad Air with M2 and M3, 13-inch iPad Pro with M4 and M5, and 11-inch iPad Pro with M4 and M5. We'll show you the actions and gestures you can use with your Apple Pencil Pro, and we'll explore its features and customizable settings. First, let's go over the actions and gestures you can perform with your Apple Pencil Pro. You can squeeze the barrel between your thumb and finger. By default, this action lets you open and close a tool palette on your iPad. You can also roll your Apple Pencil Pro between your fingers to change the orientation of certain writing tools, so you can control the thickness of lines or pen strokes. And you can double tap the lower section of your Apple Pencil Pro with your finger. By default, this action switches between your current tool and the eraser. Now, we'll show you some features of Apple Pencil Pro and how you can customize your settings. In a compatible app like Notes, squeeze the barrel of your Apple Pencil Pro to open the tool palette. You can still access your drawing tools from the main palette using the markup button, but this tool palette appears right below the tip of your Apple Pencil. Use your Apple Pencil Pro or finger to swipe across the tool palette to expand it. So many options! Let's take this highlighter for a spin. Squeeze your Apple Pencil Pro to close the tool palette, and roll it between your fingers to change the orientation, just like you would with a real highlighter. Hover Apple Pencil near the screen to preview the angle of drawing tools. Oh, that was so easy! The tool palette contains more than just tools. We'll open it again and tap the More button for additional markup options like stickers, text box, and more. If you tap the Settings button, you can turn Draw with Finger on or off and quickly access pencil settings. Let's tap Pencil Settings. This takes us directly to the Apple Pencil settings, which you can also access by opening Settings on the home screen at any time. Under Actions, tap Squeeze to customize what it does, like switching between your current and last used tool, showing the color palette, using a system shortcut you've created, and more. Sensitivity determines the pressure needed to activate the squeeze gesture. Adjust the slider to the right to require more pressure, or to the left for less. Then tap the Back button to return to your Apple Pencil settings. If you select Double Tap, you can choose what action the double tap gesture takes. The options for effects are on by default, but you can turn them off if you'd like. With these options, you can control how you want your Apple Pencil Pro to preview hover effects when it's near the screen, and if you want to experience haptic feedback. And if you scroll down, there are other settings to help you customize your Apple Pencil Pro so you can use it the way you like. All right, time to get back to work on our fly fishing note. And that's Apple Pencil Pro. Dream it up, jot it down.
So you can see that, especially now with the Pencil Pro, it's added so many more features and options than what you had with the older pencil. I just hate, I guess, as with all things, my old pencil, my original Apple Pencil, is now sitting in a drawer because I can't use it with my newer device. And my wife can't use it with her new iPad Air. So it goes the way of the dodo bird, I guess.
Glenn, a couple things. That lady is the same voice. They must be making a lot of these kind of videos. I just watched one today about that issue I was talking to you about downloading.
Yeah.
Same person, and they're very good.
Well, I guess they like her voice. It's soothing and for people, and then that's probably the job she does, recording these videos.
Yeah, I'm glad to see them doing very friendly and thorough things. The second thing I wanted to ask you is primarily, what do you use your iPad Pro for?
Well, for me, I know there was a real push a few years back to replace your laptop, your MacBook with the iPad. To me, I never thought that was realistic. I use them for pretty different functions. Now, obviously there's some overlap, but my serious work is done on my MacBook Pro. Graphics stuff, work stuff, word processing stuff. But if I'm just surfing the net or doing email, I can do it on either one, although I generally email stuff I do on my MacBook. For my iPad Pro, I use it for, well, now I do all of my reading through either my Kindle app or my Nook app on the iPad Pro, because my number of books was getting ridiculous. When we moved into this house 8 years ago, I think I sold off something like 15 boxes of books. And my wife told me I had to quit buying books. So now I just buy them all on there and do my reading. I do, if I'm just doing light surfing on the net or whatever, I will use that because it's a little less, it's less heavy, smaller. Also, I've got some casual games I like to play and I'll do it on there. More often than not, if I'm watching like a TV show or a movie or video or whatever, I tend to do that on my iPad, although sometimes I will do it on my Mac just because it's a bigger screen. But I do a lot of that. So I almost think of and I'll take notes whenever I'm listen to lectures or I'm in a meeting, I take notes on there. I do drawing on my iPad.
Okay. And you use your pencil, like you said, you use it a lot.
Yeah, so to me, they kind of have different uses. I've got a friend who she's a psychologist and sees patients, and she asked if I could do a little drawing for her. And kind of two minds, one is creative and one that is full of, anxiety and fear and stuff like that. And so I used my pencil to draw that on my iPad and I sent it to her. And in fact, when I'm done with this, at some point I'll find it. I'll try to share that drawing with you guys just to show you. So yeah, very different uses, but I use the pencil quite often.
Okay, thank you.
And by the way, I love that it just sticks with the magnet on top of your iPad. Now, got to be careful so you don't knock it off and lose it. But, I like that it's just right there. I don't have to carry it separately or something. All right. I don't know that I would want to do this, but if you need to know this, you can browse the web on your Apple Watch. Now, I don't think it's something I'd want to do, but in a pinch, if I'm somewhere and I need to look something up, it's handy to know that, okay, I can look at my watch real quick if for whatever reason I can't use the phone. So there actually is a, web browser that you can use. So there are really two ways you can browse the web on your Apple Watch. The first way is via using messages. So if you open the Apple Messages app on your Apple Watch, and then you click on a message with a link to a web page, the page will actually load on your watch, and you can browse by you use the crown of the watch to scroll. So it's kind of interesting. The other way you can do this, there's actually a browser out there that costs $2.99. It's in the Apple Store. It's the Mu browser. And then, you open that and you can choose one of two options: enter a web address, and you got to, type it in the watch, or you can use the search box. I can't imagine I'd actually want to do this, but just letting you guys know, you can actually browse the web, using your watch. And hopefully you've got an Ultra, because that way your screen's a little larger, because I don't think I'd want to do that for very long. But there are, like I said, two options that allow you to do this on the watch, either through messages links or the Mu browser. And you can see kind of what it looks like there, the Mu browser a little bit. All right. And I think finally, the last thing I have for you tonight, if you're in love with classic Macs, there are two little interesting little devices you can buy. The first one is called the Kokogol Mac Clock. And so it's a little clock that this classic Mac becomes. And it has a little clock on there. That's what it is. They have a calendar mode, a time mode, and an Easter egg mode, and you can just put this on wherever you want it, and it's $29.99. So if you've got a thing for that, it's got a little USB-C charging port for it. And so anyway, if you want a little clock, there you go. And the second one is the RayQ 128K. It's a retro style multifunctional dock with display. And so they make two models, the Pro model for $159 and their standard model for $99. And you can see down in the corner there all the little docks on there. I'll show you this little video.
Introducing RayQ 128K docking station, the world's first multifunctional retro desktop essential. It's the best companion for your laptop. RayQ 128K has a range of ports for different peripherals. The DisplayLink technology supports 3 4K external displays for your laptop. RayQ 128K delivers up to 100 watts of power to your laptop. It also fast charges your laptop and smartphone at the same time. And you can enjoy your favorite tunes with the built-in Bluetooth speakers. RayQ informs you of upcoming appointments to stay on top of your day. And the portable keyboard hub allows you to work more productively anywhere you go. Its vintage appearance suits any workspace. RayQ's digital display can be personalized with a wide selection of UI. It has everything you need to make your desk a perfect workstation. RayQ, redefine your work.
So pretty clever little device as a dock, and it does some other things too. Not cheap, but interesting though. So if you're into classic Macs, there you go. All right. So there you guys have it. I actually didn't think my goodies would run that long. I thought, oh, they're pretty light this month. So, all right, Ron, you ready to get to some WWDC talk?
Yep. Did any of you watch it? The actual presentation?
Yep.
Okay, no, we did.
Although I had to go to Breadco since I lost my internet, I quickly went to the nearest Breadco and sat down, had a coffee, and watched it there.
Give me a moment here.
Who's your internet provider that dropped it for you?
i3 broadband, and there were some other providers that seemed to have trouble yesterday. I think it was because the weather, but I don't get it because we have fiber optic, and I'm not sure why that should be affected by the weather. And we've had i3 broadband for a couple of years now. That's only the second time we've had any glitch with them at all. So I was pretty surprised, just bad timing.
Okay, let's see this order.
By the way, before we get into it, Ron, I just wanted to ask Fran if his background was as an homage to WWDC and the new Mac OS. Is Fran still with us, or did he?
Brand's got his sound off.
Oh, yeah, Fran.
I was muted there.
Okay.
My wife interrupted me and I had to talk with her for a little while. But
Sorry.
anyway, I don't even know how I got this background. I'm sometimes I'm egregiously incompetent about some of these simple things. I don't know.
I thought, well, that's a nice tie-in for our meeting tonight. I didn't know if you did that on purpose or not.
I wish I could say I did.
Okay.
Okay, do y'all see this? It's the
Yes.
website from Apple. And it's the overview. You also click iOS, Mac OS, and so on, and it has a little details about some of the other things. But mainly the whole thing was about Siri, the new Siri, and all the iOS is 27, which basically in Siri.
Ron and others, did you guys find this to be a very odd WWDC presentation like I did?
Very different.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
different, yes.
Normally they go through, oh, we're going to show you iOS and we're going to show you Mac OS. And it wasn't based on system. It was based on features that you find across. So it was a very different presentation.
Yeah, that's true.
You show too much of your screen. Can you just show your presentation? We see your map and your spreadsheet behind you.
Oh, yeah, Ron, we're seeing like your desktop and the GAMUG membership stuff. Yeah, just share that window.
Oh, we got a second. Alan, did you get your water back
Oh yeah, it came back Sunday afternoon.
Sunday afternoon? He was out 2 days.
Yeah, we
Is
had to
that-
boil it, but we just used bottled water for a few days.
Are you just seeing my screen now or not?
Yeah,
Yes,
now we're
it's
just
good.
seeing that window,
Okay.
Ron.
I must have clicked on the wrong thing. There's all sorts of child safety things. That was a big thing, and if I had a kid, maybe that would be a useful thing to me. But design liquid glass, your AI assistant, more personal, and AI is a big thing that if it all takes place why they're saying it's going to do, it should be pretty useful.
Well, I think it was interesting with the AI presentation part of it. It's the first time they actually told you that they partnered with Google Gemini, to work on this. But I thought the biggest push that they kept saying throughout this is that, privacy in the individual is their first consideration and not the data. And so they kept kind of, I thought, emphasizing that throughout it.
You can Siri will actually write things for you. So it's sort of like becoming a chat GPT in a lot of ways.
Hey, Ron, do me a favor and just say S lady, will you? I just had 3 devices go crazy when you said that.
let's see. Apple Intelligence will also use for your camera.
Photos.
The safety features, I think, for useful for parents with their kids. You can actually have your kid use their own.
Well, Glenn's the only one here, I think, that has a young child.
Yeah, but I find so I think some of the flexibility they're adding in is good, but I will say this, like, when we just got the new computer and I set up, profiles on the computer for my son and my wife, I find the child controls actually are more of a hindrance than they are a help. And I say that because some things ratings don't really jibe with I'm trying to think how I want to say this. Like, so if I put so my son is 10, and if I put my child ratings and age stuff for what would you would think of for a 10-year-old, like for instance, he can't watch Star Wars movies. And I'm like, well, that's ridiculous. He's been watching that stuff since he was like 5 or 6 years old. It's not real consistent. And
Well, maybe
like
the new one will be because they
well,
talk about a lot of changes.
yeah, I'm looking to see if it's gonna. I think it sounds like to me there's going to be a lot more flexibility with it. That was one thing that struck me.
And you could say what apps they can use on their phone and the computer,
Right, and you could
what
limit
website they can go to.
how much time and stuff like that. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I'll wait to see. The one of the things I like is it can control who your kid can contact, and they already have that on there. Anytime he wants to message with somebody new, like on his iPad, I'll get a thing that comes to me and I have to approve it first. So, but it really does sound like it's going to give you more flexibility, maybe more detail, and that's what I'm hoping because right now the child stuff it doesn't work great. Like I've had to change the apps thing to 18 plus rating for him because some of the apps when I had it down at like 14 or whatever it is, some of the apps that to me seemed harmless he couldn't access. So I've really had to dilute those features.
Well, I like the liquid glass controls I saw in the first screen that you showed, Ron.
Yeah, you can.
I remember you can change the opacity of them.
Mhm.
I've seen liquid glass things on a watch I installed for somebody, and you couldn't tell what the damn number was because it was too transparent.
Yeah,
Well,
you
and
can.
they really, with all the complaints they've gotten from people, allows you a lot more flexibility to control it. The thing that struck me in that part of the conversation, the presentation about the liquid glass and design, is that I mean, they were touting some impressive numbers if it really works out as far as responsiveness. Like they were saying 30% faster on app launches, 70% faster time to load photos. I mean, stuff like that to me is quite impressive
Impressive.
if that really does it. The other thing I like with the liquid glass and that struck me is that they're going to take like icons and layer different stuff on the icon. So when you're looking at it, it's not going to look flat. It'll have more of a 3D effect. I'm curious to see how those look.
I had a comment, but I lost it.
What's interesting is, oh, did you hear that Mac OS is going to be Golden Gate? Is the name of it?
You
Yeah.
said that.
27 will work on all these from iPhone 11 on up.
By the
So
way, I thought that was pretty impressive that you can go all the way back to the 11.
exactly that it's longer than
Although
almost any of those have
let,
done.
let me throw out there, guys, that if you want to use the AI features, you still got to have a 15 Pro level phone or newer.
Well,
So,
yeah, that's true.
so while while the system, the iOS 27 will go back to an iPhone 11, you're not going to get all the latest and greatest features.
That's true. It's interesting too. Notice all these iOS mentions. Siri was 102.
S lady. Yeah, I think that again, because their presentation was not about their systems, it was about their features. And so I think that's why we heard so much of the S lady versus the systems.
This is the parental controls. Create a child account. I think, honestly, what you're saying, Glenn, might be the older stuff, and this new one, maybe it will satisfy all the objections you had.
Yeah, I'm just curious if how much they test that whole child accounts out in the real world, though, because and I don't know, maybe I'm just, maybe the content that my child is exposed to, but like I said, I have no objection in watching Star Wars stuff, for instance, but they rate it higher because there's violence in there. It's not like I'm letting him watch content that has nudity and things like that, but some of it, just the way they rate things, doesn't fully make sense to me.
Well, some of us have grandkids. I have a 5 and an 8-year-old boys, and I would hate to be a parent today trying to protect those kids.
Much harder for sure.
It's actually going to be a Siri app. I'm sorry, S Lady app.
my iPad's sitting right here with my notes on it. Every time you say that, it's like blinking.
There's a commercial. I forget what it's talking about, but when my TV says the S Lady, my computer stops.
Yeah. Sometimes it's weird because sometimes there'll be one device, sometimes it's the other device. And then, or like, it's funny if we're all in the same room and somebody's like, my son's talking to his iPad with the S Lady, and then like my wife's device or my device is going off. It's like, it's weird.
Hey, I got a question. They still are promoting the viewer, the thing goes over your head.
Well,
I
yes,
saw
but
that
I
was
know
in
that
there.
may not be around for real long.
That's what I was wondering about because,
I
they were talking about backgrounds of it that you could take a picture with that thing and then see it 3 dimensions. So that was stood out for me. They had the canyon view that you could
Yeah.
almost walk into.
I've just heard rumors that we may get away from the whole Vision Pro thing and more to glasses, but who knows? You never know.
Yeah, they never mentioned anything about any of the devices.
I will say this with the Apple Intelligence, what I am most looking forward to, well, two things. I thought there were two features that really struck me. One, and obviously I'll have to try it to see if it really works, but more of the plain language kind of communication, um, where it's supposed to be, more accuracy in the language that it's talking to you with, the S lady. And I loved how they showed the little sliders that you can make it like faster or slower talking, and
Oh yeah, that was neat.
much more flexibility than what you have now. And so I'm kind of looking forward to seeing how that all works. I think they're trying to get you to more of a conversational model that's very kind of stunted right now.
Well, they had the slider with it. You could change the almost like a robot all the way up to something real complex on the
Yeah,
end.
I'll be curious to play with that and see how that works in real life.
Yeah, where do you fit in there?
Well,
I'll
everything's
have
not
to get a
great
new
when they
computer
present
too.
it, but until you get it, you never know.
That's true.
The other thing that I thought was interesting was that you can now will be able to have the S lady proofread writing and give you feedback on it. So I'll be curious to try that and see how that works, which is no difference if I take a writing passage. Like sometimes when I write something and I want to kind of polish it up, I will take that, writing and I'll upload it into an AI program and it'll do that for me. But now, there's touting that the S lady will be able to do that right on your device. So that'll be interesting to see how that works.
May not have as many controls on it as you had on Claude or whatever.
Yeah, I don't know. It'll be, like I said, it'll be interesting to see. The other thing that struck me in their presentation about the AI stuff was like that it can search for like info from conversations. Like maybe, if I'm trying to find something like in a message or a phone conversation, it can reference something from other conversations and that I need to find. So like I'm talking to somebody, I'm like, oh yeah, we talked about something. And if I ask it to, it can go back and search the messages and phone conversations, things like that to find information to be able to be handy. And I'll be curious to see how that works. For those of you that use home devices, I thought this was a little interesting thing that if you have like cameras that you use on your home devices, it can like search for things on clips that you might want to find that like, if you've got a smart doorbell or cameras around your house, you can ask it to, well, I had a delivery on this time. Can you find that for me and tell me, whatever you want to know about it?
Yeah. Yeah. Who came and picked it up?
Real quick, I'd be curious who I have Nest cameras and doorbells, and I'm not totally happy with the whole situation. I wonder what are you guys using for your cameras and stuff like that?
I have a Ring doorbell,
Yeah,
and
me too.
I was going to put cameras one on the back side of my house, but we get so much animal traffic across our backyard. It's like an animal highway through there. We back up to a creek and everything that I didn't want. I just felt like, man, if I have a camera back there, it's just going to be going off constantly. So um, but I don't like that my Ring doorbell was no longer Ring, that it was bought by, who was that? Is it Google, I think?
Yeah.
Um, and I, like you, I've got a Nest thermostat, but I don't have any of the camera stuff.
I think Nest was bought by Google,
Who was Ring bought by then? Is it Amazon maybe?
but
Yeah,
you
I don't
happy
know.
with their I mean, do you have recorded video?
Yeah, I pay a fee every year to be able to, record stuff to be able to go back and look at it.
And it's real handy when you're on vacation. You can just spy in
Yeah.
on your house. It's pretty quick too. But
Well,
I only do it outside. I only do outside, front door and back door. I
I
don't do
will
it.
say this though, because we get so many animals, I had to turn on, there's a setting and I had to turn on distinguish between human and animal because we would get this a lot with deer, right up in the door. I mean, they come right on the porch and we'd be woken up at 3 in the morning by a deer, So what it does now is it takes a few seconds to distinguish. So the downs, which is great because now animals don't make our doorbell go off. But on the other downside is that it's a little slow when somebody's at your door. There might take 4 or 5 seconds, even after they've, rang the bell to distinguish what's there. So that's the downside to it. So,
Do
but
the deers ring the bell?
I've only tried Ring.
Okay, thanks.
Francis, I have a different product. I have the Logitech Circle View doorbell that I've had now for, I suppose, a couple of years. And it does take short videos, although I didn't pay for the subscription service to try to save them. So if I want to go back and look at, let's say, who was at the door at 2 p.m. yesterday, I'm not able to do it. I think that would be a paid service.
Yeah, I pay extra every year. I don't remember what, but I do.
Is
By
yours
the way,
Wi-Fi?
oh, go ahead.
Is yours both of you guys Wi-Fi connected or are they wired?
Mine,
Not
go
the
ahead, Jeff.
power, but the
Oh, the
Signal,
power now
video.
on mine, I had an electrician come in and run a wire. So you can on the model that I've got and a lot of the other ones, you can have them just be battery powered. I didn't want to do that because I figured during very cold weather the batteries would lose power quite quickly and you'd have to be recharging them all the time. So I just went ahead and had a wire run, and
But
basically
that,
it's running the is it 24 volt wiring that used to run the doorbell. So
Yeah.
where the doorbell was in the house, I took the doorbell off and I had them install the camera. Um,
Those wires.
actually, well, it's a camera that works as a doorbell, basically. Okay, but it's wired as opposed to being battery powered. Now it also, and I've got it running. It supports the home app. If I bring up the home app on the phone, I can see the thing.
but is it, all right, is that connected wirelessly to your Wi-Fi?
Yes.
All right, so if somebody comes up with a jammer I'm just, I'm hearing the problems with that. They go around different homes, maybe not in our area, but some areas they go in and jam all the Wi-Fis before they come in.
Alan, I've got a battery operated one because unlike John, I would have had to have a professional electrician come in. I didn't want to do that because I took off the old doorbell, but the wiring wasn't going to reach. And so I do a battery one, and I would say, I don't know, every 3 months or so it'll tell me the battery's low. I just pull it out overnight, charge it, and then it's good to go. I put it back in. So yeah, mine's battery operated.
But
Good.
still communicating Wi-Fi.
Yeah. And it's using the, what is it, 2.5 gigahertz band?
Yeah, that's
Okay, do we have a video to show?
Yeah, I've got that video I will share with you guys. Hold on a second. Oh, by the way, before I share that video, I want to mention one other thing about the AI features. Um, I thought this was very interesting, or maybe very telling, that Apple mentioned this, but they did talk about that some of the AI features are going to have a daily limit. And
That's in
so,
the photo app.
well, yeah, but I didn't know if that was going to be exclusively for that or if it was going to be across other things. I'll be very curious to see. And what I think Apple's going to do is, I think that, I guess they're worried about too much traffic on their servers. And my guess is if you don't want those limits, just like other AI platforms, you can pay Apple to move to a tier where you're not limited. I think that's what's coming. That's what it sounds like to me, at least. All right. So anyway, I've got a video here. It's about 5 minutes long, kind of a recap of this stuff that we're going to share here.
Well, everyone, WWDC
Guys
26,
see
the
and hear
keynote
this?
is officially in the books.
Yes.
And I won't lie to you, this is one of the more unique presentations that we've gotten from Apple at a WWDC. There's a lot to talk about and a lot to break down, but before we do, comment down below. Was the new revamp to Siri, the new revamp to Apple Intelligence, and all the new features they showcased, was that a success overall in your mind? Really curious to know your thoughts, but let's break down the entire presentation right now. So this is going to be all about highlighting the main points of each section. I will have follow-up videos breaking down each category and each feature in depth, so definitely get subscribed and help us get to 1 million subscribers. But Apple started off the presentation, of course, with Tim Cook saying his famous good morning, which it might be his last one, because September 1st is going to be his last day as CEO. But they started off talking about liquid glass and doubling down on that by adding a couple extra features here. Now, the presentation was unique because normally Apple gives us some statistics, some advice, some things that kind of happened over the last year, and then breaks it down on a per operating system basis, so iOS, iPadOS, so on and so forth. Whereas this time, they kind of talked about everything together in totality, still from a feature standpoint. So again, they started off with Liquid Glass 2.0. So overall, they've iterated a lot on this since iOS 26 and that announcement, but basically they're adding a little bit more of customization, and they're realizing that different people have different tastes in terms of how they want their liquid glass to be. So they're adding a little slider in there to adjust the readability, to adjust the opacity to get it as clear as possible, all the way to just a little bit more tinted so it's easier to read for some people. They then went on to talk about macOS a little bit in terms of some of the UI refinements, and again, I'm talking about refinements. These are small little design tweaks that doesn't really change the function at all, just kind of the visual appeal of what the operating system is going to look like. So a new unified toolbar, expanded sidebars, colored sidebars for icon is making a return, as well as consistent window corner radii. So again, it makes it just a little bit more fluid and easier to see, I guess, at the end of the day. But again, it's just UI, it's not really a functional difference. And then they went on to talk about performance and snappiness overall when it comes to refining the UI and the operating system experience. So they went on to mention that apps are launching 30 times faster than before, which I didn't know there was like enough time of improvement to increase it 30%, but they also say that photos are going to load up to 70% faster, which I do see happening from time to time. Like you take a picture, it takes a second or two, especially in a low light situation photo, so that's a nice little add-on. AirDrop is up to 80% faster, again, up to. And then external drive transfers on iPad specifically is 5 times faster, getting closer to what it is to kind of use file transfers with the Finder application in macOS. And then one of the biggest things here is that iOS 27 will be compatible to up to the iPhone 11. So that's a 7-year-old iPhone. Now that could be a little bit misleading because, again, while we'll get iOS 27, a version of it on the iPhone 11, it's definitely not getting all these Apple Intelligence and Siri features that's being promised because that's only reserved for the much newer iPhone. So it remains yet to be seen what kind of compromises are made between, let's say, an iPhone 11 and something like an iPhone 17 Pro. But stay tuned and get subscribed, like I said, and we'll kind of test those out as the days go by. And then they went on to talk about better search overall. Now, if this does translate to real world usage in the way that they spoke about, search has been kind of horrendous lately with iOS 26 in terms of just opening up Spotlight and searching things that has a little bit more in depth as opposed to just searching an application. Maybe I want to find a specific photo or time period. That supposedly is going to be a lot better with this new version of iOS. And then we get new features across a lot of Apple applications that they started talking about. So the Photos app gets a nice little revamp in terms of compatibility across different devices. So Photos now give you full resolution with shared albums, and then in that same light in shared albums, you can now have Android users and Windows users on a shared album on iOS, which is something that hasn't been done before. Health got some additional features in terms of perimenopause support, menopause tracking, and educational insights. AirPods now finally, and rejoice, give me a comment down below if you're happy about this. Custom EQs finally coming to AirPods. Now, I don't know if it's just the AirPods Pro or which AirPods it is, but we'll test that as we see fit. And then Apple went on to then spend about 15 minutes of the presentation talking about child safety, trust and safety, parental controls, everything that encompasses that. And again, I for one am all for that because again, I have a 4-year-old and if she gets her hands on grandma's iPhone and she goes on YouTube Shorts, then yeah, she can go down a random rabbit hole even at 4 years old. So having all these things put in place is fantastic. I'm going to have a whole separate video on this because there's a lot of information for this one. So comment down below what you want to see out of that because I do think it is a little bit more niche because of course it's only really for parents. And now let's get into this Siri AI of it all because that is what it's now being called. It's Siri plus Apple Intelligence and they're calling it Siri AI moving forward. And actually from the looks of it, just again from seeing the keynote, I haven't played with it yet. It looks great. It looks like the massive update that we've been learning for or yearning for and the massive update that we've all wanted out of Siri. And if this does translate into real world use in the way that it was shown to be used, then yes, I would consider this a success to the first real version of Siri. Again, 2 years late and a lawsuit later, but we're finally getting Siri 2.0. So it's going to be taking in a lot of personal context in order to make a lot of this stuff relevant. So it's going to find information from your Messages app, photos, notes, from your files, from your emails, just by asking it, whether you're asking it orally or you're asking it by typing to Siri. You're also going to pull in a lot more broad world knowledge especially, so Siri can search the web, get current information, generate some answers. And then it has app actions built into that as well, so it can actually complete tasks for you, so draft emails, edit photos, create reminders, and send messages almost on your behalf. You do have to send the last OK. And then, of course, you get some on-screen awareness. Some of the cool demos they showed off here were, again, the World Cup is coming around, so somebody asked it, when the next World Cup game was, and then it said who it was with, and then it kind of asked a follow-up question talking about, all right, let me make a recipe, or let me make a spread of food from both different nationalities, and it gave you recipes, and then it put that into an invite to share with your friends via iMessage. So again, all in one conversation, in a naturally flowing conversation, which is what we wanted Siri to be. And that's what the idea is with Siri, to make it a lot more conversational, make it a lot more again, for lack of a better term, lifelike. I hate to use that word in this scenario, but you want it to be as human-like as possible when conversing with you, especially if you compare it to the competition of the ChatGPTs and the Perplexities and the Geminis of the world. It does sound relatively natural. Like, you can understand that it is a robot back there and it's not full human, but it's much more conversational than Siri was up until this point, hopefully. But again, you can have follow-up questions. You can brainstorm with Siri, which is something that I do with ChatGPT on the personal finance side a lot of the time, and it'll just help you overall when it comes to that standpoint. And then we will have a dedicated Siri application, which I think is going to be great, especially when syncing across devices. One of the best things about ChatGPT or any of these competitors is that you can open up the ChatGPT application on your iPhone, start a conversation, then open it up on your iPad or Mac. The same thing will be happening with this new version of Siri AI. And then Apple briefly went over the camera and visual intelligence. So visual intelligence is going to live inside of the camera application moving forward. So the new Siri camera mode, you can point your camera at food, objects, locations, bills, and then depending on what you want, it'll do something for you on that behalf. So you could take a picture of some food and it'll give you the nutritional information that it's guesstimating in terms of caloric intake, if it's healthy for you. They showed like a little kind of gradient in terms of that's a healthy food or not. You can also take pictures of objects or locations, get some information on that. Take a picture of a restaurant bill and then split it right inside of that same UI, and then probably Apple Cash request the people if you're just putting it on one person's credit card. So all very useful things that, again, things that just are very easy to understand that should have been around since the beginning. And then the reason Apple didn't break this down by an operating system standpoint like they usually do is because Siri is going to be going over all the different OSs, right? Of course, they showed off some Mac use cases with visual intelligence where you can literally just use visual intelligence on a screenshot and for screen content to ask it questions. And the coolest one, from my opinion, was with Vision OS and the Vision Pro. You basically have this floating blue orb inside of your Vision Pro UI. You literally look at it and then ask a question on what it's seeing. So it's kind of like circle to search for your eyeballs, because that's what you're seeing. You're seeing the world in front of you with floating windows, and being able to ask Siri questions on that is going to be an amazing thing to see. Comment down below if you guys want to see me use that in different use cases with my Vision Pro. And then Apple went on to showcase a few other things from the Apple Intelligence and Siri standpoint on a per app situation. So Safari, they talked about AI tab organizations, and then also the Notify Me. For people that are maybe waiting for concert tickets or waiting for somebody to come back in stock or something for a website to change, you can have a Notify Me situation where it'll notify you when that thing happens on a certain website so that you can go in and take whatever action you need. So I can see this being big for restocking things in terms of online shopping. There was also, I think it was called create an extension. So being able to create an extension just based on natural language for specific use cases. Very, very cool in my opinion. So then the Messages app gets updated as well and understands conversations and context. It can create reminders, find photos directly in the keyboard, suggest actions as well. So everything is kind of just getting smarter, and it's reducing the friction between what you need to do in those applications. And that is what Siri AI is going to be. It's supposed to make your life a little bit easier. So instead of going to your Photos application, looking for the photo that they need, it'll take whatever personal context is around you in that conversation and just pull up those photos right in front of you, and then you can select which ones you want, which does reduce the friction and time used when finding those photos. Same thing goes with the Calendar application and the Phone app, just things that are just much easier to go from point A to point B. Siri AI will handle it. They then had a small section about the Home application, talking about how the Home application is getting smarter, especially with 4K cameras and cameras in general, being able to use Apple Intelligence and Siri AI to pinpoint who people are, look at contextual awareness of if they've seen them before, maybe categorize who those people are. So that's always great when it comes to show me package deliveries, and then being able to find that really quickly inside of the HomeKit application. And then two more things that Apple talked about here. One of them is going to be the Shortcuts app. Shortcuts is supposed to get much easier moving forward. I don't really play too much with shortcuts. I have a couple here and there, but I don't use them too much. But I know that there's a huge ecosystem and community of shortcuts users and creators. And you can get very, very technical in these shortcuts that you create over time. So now, instead of going into the complicated route, which is basically like coding on the shortcuts application, you can now use natural language to describe a shortcut to happen, and then it'll create it on your behalf. So let's see how that ends up working out. Shout out Steven Robles. Love that guy. He makes shortcuts and he makes custom ones. So I'm curious to see how he handles this moving forward. I'm going to be watching his videos for sure. And then last but not least, the Photos application. They showed some great use cases here in terms of how they're utilizing Siri AI and Apple Intelligence in the Photos app without removing the essence of the actual image. And they harped on that issue a lot. They don't want to change what the image is. They just want to enhance it and make it a little bit better and give you more options. With the first one being the new Cleanup 2.0. Basically, it's going to get much better object removal. Right now, with the first version of it, it is pretty terrible. It's good at removing things that are obviously there that can be easily removed, but if the moment there's a little bit of complication, it gets annoying to deal with, so that's going to be a good one to test. You have the extend tool, which is going to expand images beyond the original frame. And then lastly, the spatial reframing tool. It's called Reframe. This one's very cool. It's like bringing the magic of the spatial photos from Vision Pro on a 2D plane on your iPhone to then be able to move and reframe yourself to a different angle of what your subject is. So that is going to be a really fun one to play with. Let's see how it kind of pans out over time and if it works as well as advertised. So that's everything that Apple talked about. Tim Cook then came out and kind of said a big thank you because this could be his last keynote that we see him in the CEO moniker and the CEO kind of title. But let's see how that pans out over the next few weeks and months. I think it was an overall success with Siri. There's a lot of different use cases. There's going to be a lot of different nuances as well. Like I said, the iPhone 11 is supported by iOS 27, but I doubt that it's going to get any of these Apple Intelligence supported things. They also mentioned that to get the most powerful on-device kind of Siri AI, you need to have an iPhone 17 Pro or newer, you need to have an M4 iPad Pro or newer, you need to have an M3 chip laptop or newer. So again, this is going to be reserved for more of the high-powered and newer pieces of tech. So I don't know what that means for the people that have an iPhone 15 Pro or a 16 Pro or anything before or after that. So definitely stay tuned, get subscribed. We got a lot more content coming down the pipeline to kind of understand who's going to get what, when they're going to get it, and how much of it they're going to get as well. But let me know in the comment down below. Successful keynote or still a wash until you actually get your hands on it. We're installing the betas as we speak, which I'm excited to get into. And I'm installing it on my main device, so wish me luck. But that'll do it for this video. If you made it to the end, leave a little dolphin. AFC Richmond for the win. Here are a couple other videos of that
Speed demon.
Yeah, he was very
YouTube things.
All right.
complex talker.
He spoke
listen there.
quickly, I think, is what it really was, you know.
Well, I had a lot of content. Yes, try to get
Yeah.
all in it.
But I thought he did a nice job of just recapping things in a little 5-6 minute video. So I will give him credit for that. And by the way, Fran, I thought he mentioned it in there. That was the other thing I was going to mention to you, that the Apple Intelligence is there's some interesting stuff with photos that it's going to be able to do. So I'm looking forward to playing with that. You saw the one spatial thing where the two kids, how they moved them around. And I think, to reframe them, I think that's a cool feature. But again, until we actually have these and play with them, it's hard to say because they always make it look great in the keynote. And then when you get it, well, sometimes it lives up to the expectations and sometimes not.
Yeah, that's some of those things are right out of the Photoshop library that exists now, rotating people and removing objects, and they're getting better and better. Adobe is getting better and better at that themselves. So they're all just copying each other, I always felt like Apple just buys companies or steals the technology somehow that they see out there.
Well, God knows they've shut down enough third-party creators over the years by stealing their ideas and incorporating it right into their system. So
Right.
I guess as somebody who's a third party, if you're adding stuff to the whole iPhone, or whatever system, you want it to be good, but not good enough that Apple steals your idea and then you're out of business.
Right.
So any other thoughts about WWDC and some of the stuff they mentioned? Anybody have anything we haven't talked about?
Yeah, in my own case, I bought that 16 Pro Max, I think in September. It'll be 2 years this September. And I'm like, gosh, I usually like to keep these phones 4, 5, 6 years if I can. So I don't know, they talk about the 17, needing a 17 to do a lot of this stuff. I don't know if I can stomach, and every 2 years getting a phone.
Well, I think I'm in the market for a new phone this fall just because my 15 Pro Max is frustrating me enough. I'm ready to throw it against the wall lately. So, but yeah, I'm not. I mean, I do think though, with the pace of the AI changes, that's what's putting much more pressure, on needing to update devices and stuff because you want to be able to do this stuff. So, like John, when I bought the iPad Pro, that M4 model, that was one of the things in my mind. Well, gee, do I want to get the M5 because of some of the AI stuff, or will the M4 be, good enough to handle that stuff? So that's definitely stuff I'm thinking of a lot more.
I was surprised the M3 wasn't listed as acceptable for that because I was reading some reviews that some things M3 is faster than the M4 or 5.
Yeah, I don't know
Something-
what it is in the chip itself, how they determine what it can handle and what it can't.
Yeah.
Ron, did you have any additional WWD stuff? WWDC
No,
stuff?
that's it. We have the drawing is all.
Yeah. By the way, as always, this stuff will be out in the fall. I usually in September they release the new iPhone, and then right on the heels of that is when they release. Some years they do. Some years they've done it piecemeal where you get iOS and then a week or two later Mac OS, and then some years they've just thrown all the systems out there at one time. So, but probably again in September all this will be released.
Release date is set, huh?
So that's usually when they do it.
I have a little Zoom question. About halfway through this meeting, I put my pointer up towards the top and it asked me if I wanted to get away from dark, like not enough light. And I thought, well, okay, I'll try that. And I clicked on it. And now I've got this beam, this quarter-inch wide frame around my Zoom picture that I don't even know how to get rid of it. Anybody
Okay,
know about that?
yeah, what you're actually, it's not a Zoom thing. What you're probably talking about is edge light. So
Yes.
you have a little green camera icon at
Yeah.
the top on your menu bar.
Yeah.
Click on that.
Click
Go
on
down.
the little green. Oh, you talk about the dot itself?
Well, do you see there on your menu bar? Do you have a little like oval, green oval with a white camera in it?
Yeah.
Click
The
on
very
that.
top.
That's it. So
And then
when you click on it, what do you do with it?
go
and say,
down.
oh,
Well, scroll
turn
down.
edge light off, I
It
guess.
says edge light and click on the little icon there. It should turn it off.
Thank you very much.
Well, that's something like if you're in a
Oh,
dark room and you want to use it, especially so it lights you
Yeah.
more, like
Yeah.
that's what it's for.
Good to know. I'm glad I asked.
All right, Ron, are we ready to do our drawing?
Yeah, is everybody okay?
Unless anybody has any other questions.
I'm trying to figure this out. Okay.
We got the wheel again, Ron.
Yep. Do y'all see that?
oh,
Wow. Look at that. That's
you worked
pretty
hard
cool.
on that, Ron.
Holy smokes. How
Well,
did you do
That's a
that?
website that you pick this up. I just would type in all the names. And
That
there's
is pretty cool.
78 entries,
Wow.
and that includes everybody that's come to a meeting and everybody that's actually has a
I would like to make a comment. I noticed you entered Terry and Tammy, Kay, about two-thirds of the way down that visible list. We were just both at the same screen. So I was thinking that
no,
we were.
that Terry, that is because that's your membership.
Oh, so if we're both in the meeting, do we each get an entry or or
Yes. You can see this up, you'll see Terry and such at different things. But the Terry and Tammy is because that's your membership.
oh, that's supposed to be the single entry that's not for a particular meeting?
Yes,
Okay, so the membership gets an entry, and then each one of us gets an entry for each meeting we attend.
correct. Okay.
Oh, thank you.
Cool.
So I'm going to just click on this thing and it'll spin around and choose
this is-
somebody.
This is for the what? The $100?
$100 Apple gift card, which is actually not a gift card anymore. Alan will actually mail you out a thing for them,
A link. Yeah.
a link.
Well, it comes in as a card on your
Okay.
digital card. Yeah.
Okay,
Go.
so are we ready?
Sure.
Here we go.
Oh,
Francis Field.
whoa. How about that? That is so cool. Thank you very much.
I have a
Congrats.
question now, Ron.
Yes.
I see a remove all instances. Is that so that he won't get more than one?
Well, in the past, we've always had it where you could win more than one.
Have we? Okay.
I think it happened.
This happened maybe once and twice in all the years that I've been doing it. But we can also do the remove. So, any thoughts?
Makes sense.
I would say remove all instances, so we can't have somebody win $200.
Okay, doke.
Everybody, we just
I'm
voted on
okay with that, guys. I'm good with that.
it.
Okay, here we go.
Oh, big money, big money.
Oh, you always win.
Oh,
Oh, Helen,
Boy, you just missed it.
Glenn, that just
It was crawling on my name. I'll tell you, that thing's just teasing me.
there was an ant pushing it up there.
I thought it was stopping on me, and then it
I
just
thought it had, yes.
tick.
okay. We'll do it again.
This is really
This is
cool.
the third one.
See, there's less pies in there now.
John.
Hey, John.
Oh, we can clap too?
Okay, and then we have one more.
One more.
Oh, yeah. Ripples.
All right, it's done, right?
Yeah, it's 4. Yeah.
That's
That was-
it.
That was fun.
That was very cool.
Thank
Very
By
you.
the way,
Ron.
notice if you want to do this for yourself, it's let's see, wheelofnames.com.
Is it free?
Yes.
Yeah,
I'm paying
there's
money.
actually a number of sites like this out there you can use as different pickers. I used to use some of these things in my classrooms for stuff.
Who would get the A's or something?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good one. Okay. So that's it.
Right.
Thank you.
All
Well,
right,
thank you all for all the efforts that you guys put in every month. It's a treat.
Well, thanks. Appreciate it.
And expect to get an email from Alan.
And send me a link, Ron,
I will do that.
just so I got the emails right on them. Okay.
Okay.
I'll try to get on that tonight, maybe. Maybe.
Well, I don't think I can do this. You'll have to wait till tomorrow. Is that okay?
That's fine.
Okay.
All right. Bye, everyone. Take care.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Glenn, send me
Bye-bye.
your stuff.
Yeah, I will.
Okay. And this will all be on the website as soon as we can get it up there. Okay.
Good night.
Bye-bye.